In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Kase Wolverine magnetic filters. I've been using them for the past 6 months, and I'm going to let you know what I think. So, I hadn't actually heard about Kase filters until I heard about them from another photography YouTuber, Nick Page. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, definitely check it out. It's one of the best landscape photography channels out there. So I reached out to the company and they were really cool and sent me a kit to check out so I could review it for you and see what I thought. Now these filters are built for speed. They're magnetic, so you just slap them on, pull them off real quick. But do they hold up optically? And they are round, so we're going to talk about that. They're not the drop-in filters that a lot of landscape photographers prefer. So we're going to cover all of that in this review. Let's get started. So the first thing I want to look at when it comes to image quality is the sharpness, because if the image is a little blurry or a little dull from using the ND filter, I don't even want to use the filter. I'd rather just take a shot without the filter and do something different. So it's really important that the image is sharp. So we're going to take a few images with these ND filters and we're going to check them out. Here's a shot without the filter, and here's a shot with the 6-stop with the filter. Now let's look at them side by side, and you can see at 6 stops there really isn't any discernible difference in the image quality. Now let's zoom into 100% and see if we can find any changes in the image quality. As you can see here, there really isn't any difference between these two images as far as sharpness goes. So at 6 stops, we're seeing some really good sharpness out of these filters. Now let's take a look at the 10-stop ND filter. If there's going to be any optical issues, it's going to be in the 10-stop because we're taking 10 stops of light off of this image. So we're going to take this same shot. Here's how it looks without the filter, and here's how it looks with the 10-stop filter on it. Now let's take a look at them side by side. So you can see when you're looking at the image normally, there's really no difference at all that's perceptible by the human eye. Now let's take a look at this image zoomed into 100%. So we can see even zoomed into 100%, there's almost no difference between these two images at all. So the next thing we're going to take a look at with these filters is the color cast. This is something that is really a common problem with a lot of filters. You have some filters that make the image much more blue and some filters that make the image much more yellow or warm. So we wanted to make sure that these filters don't give a very strong color cast. Now this is something you can fix in post, but not having the color cast makes it a lot easier to see your image and the quality of your image before you actually get it on the computer to see if you've got a good shot. And also, if it's an extreme color cast, you are going to have some degradation of quality when you make the changes in post. So it's better if the filters are clear and have no color cast. So like the last test, we're going to start with the 6-stop, because if the 6-stop is good, you're not going to have any problems with the 3-stop. It's pretty rare to see a 3-stop filter that has a lot of color cast or a lot of issues. So we're going to start with the 6-stop and then work our way to the 10-stop. So first, let's take a look at this image without any filter. Now let's take a look at this image with the 6-stop filter on it. Now let's take a look at a side-by-side comparison with the 6-stop filter and without the 6-stop filter. As you can see, there's almost no color cast in this image. It is really darn near perfect as far as color accuracy. So I really like this filter when it comes to the 6-stop filter. Now let's take a look at the 10-stop filter. Here's an image without any filter at all. Here's that same image with the 10-stop filter on it. Now let's take a look at them side by side. As you can see, there's no difference between these two shots as far as the color cast goes. Now, of course, I had to use a longer exposure to expose the image properly with a 6-stop filter, so there's some difference in the image. You're going to see the clouds blurring and things like that. But as far as color cast goes, I really don't see a lot of color cast. Now we're going to take a look at the filter that I probably use the most often, the circular polarizer. So with the Kase system, it just actually pops on magnetically, and you can rotate it just like that. It's actually really easy to use. Some filters are hard to, some CPLs circular polarizers are hard to screw on because you just start spinning the outside part and don't actually screw onto the mount. But this is pretty good. You just pop it on, and because it's magnetic, it rotates very easily. So the way we're going to test this out and show you how it works is just by recording on my main camera here. As I rotate the filter, we've got sky, some water, different things, that all situations where you would use the circular polarizer. I'm shooting at a 90-degree angle from the sun. The sun is pretty high in the sky right now, but mostly at a 90-degree angle, so you should see some effect from the polarizer. Now, one of the problems with polarizers is that they're too strong sometimes. They just, obliterate the picture and make it, make a blue sky like really dark and ugly, and they cause a lot of, variations. Let's see what this circular polarizer does. So as you can see, this polarizer actually works really well. It's subtle enough that you're not getting those weird artifacts and dark spots in the sky, but strong enough that it is doing what it's supposed to do. Now let's do a close-up of the water and see how well it cuts into the water, because one of my favorite ways to use a polarizer is to get past that glare on the top of the water. As you can see, it does a really good job in this situation as well. It works great. So, we've seen some really good things from this polarizer. So let's take a look at the kit that I have and what came in it. This is the Pro kit, so it has basically everything you need to get started. So we've already looked at some of these, the circular polarizer. You've got 3 ND filters. This is the 10 stop, but you also have a 3 stop and a 6 stop. And really, that's kind of the range I use for almost everything. You don't need more than that. They also have a 15 stop you can add on to this if you want. I rarely use a 15 stop. It also comes with a really nice case. This is one of the nicest cases I've gotten with a set of filters. It's leather. It's got a nice little hook. You can hook it onto your tripod if it has a thing for that. And it's pretty compact and light. And that's one of the best things I can say about these filters, is that they are super light and easy to use. So if you're doing landscape photography, you're probably hiking somewhere, so you really want a light kit, and these are really awesome when it comes to that. It takes up very little space in your kit, and one of the other things you can do, if you really don't want to use the case, they stack together. So you can take all of these filters, stack them one on top of the other, and then put the lens cap on one side, and you can get a back lens cap for the other, and this is all you have to fit in your kit. I actually prefer to keep them in the case. I think it's a little safer, a little easier to get them in and out. They're already separated, so when I need to grab one, I just can grab one and go. So I like the case, but you can also stack them if you really need to compact your kit. Now, as far as build quality, they're made from anodized steel and aluminum alloy, so these are pretty strong. I've dropped them once or twice, no problems. And what I really like is it's got like a nice rough edge around the side, so they're easy to grab. You can, they're not going to slip out of your hands. They have a little bit of a rough edge, so you can grab them. And with the polarizer, it's good because you can turn it on the filter. So I like the way they're built. They're pretty solid, pretty light. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button below. The more people hit that like button, the more people will see this video, and then I can make more videos for you. One final note on the build quality, these things have a waterproof or water resistant coating on them. It works great. The water just kind of beads up and rolls right off these filters. It also makes them really easy to wipe. I do a lot of shooting at the ocean, so if you get that sea spray off the mist off the ocean, or if you're shooting by waterfalls, you get a little mist off the waterfalls. That can be really ruin your shoot if it starts to bead up and it smears on your lens when you wipe it. But if you have a nice microfiber cloth, you can wipe these things off all day and it'll work great. So also there's a type of cleaner you can use that will make sure you maintain that coating. I'm going to throw a link in the description as well for that. So if you take care of these things, they're going to work great when you get into wetter conditions. That's another reason I really like these filters. Also, they're really thin. I don't know if you can see that too well on the camera, but the thin profile of these make them great for stacking. So you're not going to get a lot of vignetting when you use these filters. So you can stack an ND filter on top of the polarizer, and then even put 2 ND filters if you want to mix and match. So if you want like a 13 stop ND filter, you can stack the 3 on top of the 10. So that gives you a lot of versatility because you don't get a ton of vignetting. So let's check it out. Let's do a little test on the vignetting. So we're going to test the vignetting the same way we did the rest of the filters. We're going to throw some filters on here while I'm recording from this camera. So let's switch over to this camera and see what it looks like. So right now it's a little overexposed just because we're going to be throwing filters on there. First one I'm going to put on is the circular polarizer. This is the thickest one and really the most likely one you're going to put on first. So we're shooting on a full frame camera at 17 millimeters. So with just the circular polarizer, there's no vignetting at all at 17 millimeters. Now, also keep in mind, I'm using a ring here this is a 77 millimeter thread on the lens. This is my Tamron 17 to 35. There's a 77 millimeter thread on the lens, and I'm using 82 millimeter filters. I highly recommend getting the larger filters and then just getting rings that fit your particular lenses. One thing that Kase does really well is it lets you get just a single adapter for each lens that fits that lens but also will fit this one size filter. So I got the 82 millimeter filters, but I have adapters for each of my lenses because my largest lens is 82 millimeters. This particular one is 77. That's one way to really control the vignetting. So it's not a 100% great vignetting test. This is my wide angle lens, but let's check it out. Let's throw on another filter and see if we get any vignetting at 17 millimeters. So at this point I'm not seeing any vignetting at all. We've got 2 filters stacked on there. So I'm going to throw a third filter on. This is the 6-stop. And of course we're going to have to adjust the exposure. Now, even with 3 filters on there, I'm not seeing any vignetting on this particular lens and filter combo. Again, it's a 77 millimeter thread lens with an 82 millimeter filter, so this is ideal for avoiding vignetting. But I have seen reports that on an 82 millimeter lens with the same filters at wide angles, you will see a little bit of vignetting when you start stacking the filters. On the downside, one negative I have to say is the lens caps. You can't use a regular lens cap once you have the adapter on there, but they do give you these magnetic lens caps, and I would say you probably need a lens cap for each camera you have one of these adapters on. I like to leave the adapter on the whole time. As strong as the magnet is on the filters themselves, I found the magnet on the cap to be a little weaker, so sometimes it comes off in my bag. I wouldn't call it a huge deal. Regular lens caps come off in the bag all the time. If you have your good bag, it's going to be partitioned. You're not going to really worry about that. Sometimes I don't even put the lens caps on. But I would say this is one area I think they could improve with the lens cap. I'd like to see this lens cap magnet be a lot stronger because this is the one thing you're probably going to get banged around in your bag or if you put your camera down. So, but I really wouldn't call it a deal breaker. The last thing I want to talk about is probably the most impressive feature of these filters, and that is the workflow speed. Now, you've seen me putting these filters on and off this whole video, but I just want to make sure we get a really focus on that because that is the reason I love these filters. I can take these on and off as easy as anything. I used to like the square drop-ins because you can pop them on and pop them off. These are even better. So where that comes in handy, if you're shooting a long exposure, you need to take your filter off and get your focus and get your exposure right and get your composition right, and then throw the filter on. Especially if you're using something like a 10-stop ND filter, you can't see through the lens finder. Or you may have to crank up the ISO all the way to see that. It's just easier if you can take the filter off, do your composition, get your focus, and then set everything, forget it, and pop the filter on. So that makes this filter system, to me, the best one I've used in a long time, and that's really the reason why that's the filter system that I've chose to use. I've been trying it out for the last 6 months, and I think it's the best one around.